committees are you on?
Youth and education and environment and space and parks.
Same ones you were with last year?
Yeah.
Nice.
How are you doing?
All right, sweetie. How are you?
I'm good.
Tired.
I guess. So you're the representative for us. Yeah, you know. But you say keep them in the room. Yeah. Hello, how you doing? How many?
That full board meeting is gonna be a long one, right?
I know. So maybe there's a good soon. I think so with those.
I feel like it is.
Because by meetings, yeah, they're an automatic appointment. Yeah.
Which, what other meeting? This one and then, yes, I don't know why.
Hello?
Andrew, do you know which one you're the VP for?
Youth and education.
Nah, gonna be a little minute. I don't meeting, so.
And Arthur, do you know which one you're the VP for?
Services.
Human Services? Alright. Calling this meeting to order. Welcome to the District Needs and Budget Committee meeting for CB11. My name is Stephanie Arroyo. I'm the committee I'm the chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:42. Tonight, we are joined with Angel Muscane, staff liaison to our committee. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have questions about the board, business, or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. We're not taking any Zoom questions, are we, or do we?
Yeah.
We are? Okay, so then to raise your hand through the Zoom, click the participant icon. You will find the raise hand function there. If you have technical difficulties, click the chat. We're still looking at the chat. Okay, click the chat icon and relay your difficulties to the staff, and Angel will recognize you. Members should not engage in back and forth discussions. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. Please keep your questions and comments brief and on topic of the discussion, to the discussion. And members of the public, if you have questions or comments about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. We will now take attendance by roll call.
Committee members, when I call your name, please answer present. Stephanie Arroyo,
Present.
Judith Cabraro,
Here.
Malik McCullough,
Here.
Nilsa Rama,
Present.
Art Perez,
Present.
Asher Rodriguez,
Present.
John Sanders is excused, Anne Marie is excused, Jason Villano is excused, Michelle Wiltshire Clement, you have quorum.
Thank you. So we'll call this meeting to order. First, we will do the adoption of the agenda, which was circulated. Do we have any objections to the agenda? Awesome, so we don't have to take a roll call for that, right? No. Approval of meeting minutes. We don't have those, right? So moving on to the next. Okay, so reminder that we have a full board meeting Tuesday, September 26th at 6 o'clock. It will be at Dream Charter School on 102nd, 104th and 2nd Avenue. We will be holding public hearings on the draft of our FY25 statement needs and budget statement. and the 2226 Third Avenue and Timbale Terrace land use applications will also be heard that day. So it will be a long meeting. Please be prepared. This hearing will take place during the full board meeting. Again, next Tuesday, September 26th at 6 o'clock at Dream Charter School. Good. Anyone have any informational updates? Not on my end, moving on. All right, so we are going to report the finding, well, Angel will be reporting the findings. Or we will, okay, we will be looking and reporting on the findings from the needs of the survey and accompany recommendations for budget requests. The committee provides, and we will provide feedback on it. You want to bring that up?
This
Yeah.
is the slideshow that was sent out, correct?
Yes. So I can read through this and then take it up to you guys. So over the summer, as we've done the last couple of summers, we have circulated a district needs assessment survey. Which we shared in our newsletter for throughout the summer, through the end of August. And we also circulated at tabling events, and community events throughout the district that the staff and board members participated in. So the agenda for the presentation is we're gonna give some context and an overview of the process, discuss what the goals of this exercise are. I'll read out what the most pressing needs overall were per the survey. Then indicate what the most pressing needs are by policy area. Those policy areas are healthcare and human services, youth education and child welfare, public safety and emergency services, core infrastructure, city services and resiliency, housing, economic development and land use, transportation and mobility, parks, cultural and other community facilities. Then, as part of the process, the executive committee and ultimately will decide what the final ordering of the priorities are, and then we'll discuss next steps. So as I mentioned, we had public engagement strategy was to circulate the survey, we collected responses for 2 months in our newsletter. We had a total of 199 total respondents, down a hair from last year. Probably more the result of, we weren't able to make as many events as we were able to last year, but still 199 is a pretty representative number. Then outreach, like I said, we publicized it in our weekly newsletter that we sent out via email every Friday, also in social media posts. We partnered with local elected officials and community-based organizations to get the word out about the survey, and for I promised the last time we tabled at summer events to collect public input. So the goals this evening are to review the input that we received from the survey, insofar as community district needs, and then ultimately to recommend addition, revision, and removal of content for the statement of district needs, both the narrative section and the budget requests. That does not have to be determined tonight, but tonight is the beginning of that conversation. You've been having the conversation at each of your committee meetings this month. That will continue in the month of October, and continue and culminate in the month of October, at which time each committee will identify its budget requests and the priority of those budget requests for inclusion in the larger statement and list that will be put before a vote at the October full board meeting. I'm going too fast.
Can you, I want you to, if you don't mind, Angel, I want you to repeat that, because I want everyone to hear that again. About committees and.
Right, so each committee had, began the discussion about this all in September. Getting a basic sense of where you are in terms of, district needs and in terms of budget requests, if you want to continue to support, or revise your requests based on feedback you've gotten from the survey and also feedback we've gotten from the agencies. The most recent official response that we've gotten from the city was in June, upon adoption of the adopted budget. So that was the last bit of, black and white response that we've gotten from the city, and then there was a response for each one of our budget requests from last year. So next month, when the committees reconvene, the objective is to finalize any suggestions for the narrative section. And which is usually, identifying needs, but also pushing on like policy recommendations. And then for the budget requests, which are more specifically, we identified this particular need and we're requesting that this amount of money or that allocation of money be, that funds be allocated to address that need. Each committee has its own list of recommendations, its own list of requests, and the committee should be discussing which ones it wants to keep on, which ones it wants to revise, or which ones it wants to remove. A lot of time, oftentimes the removals are a result of something already got funded. We asked for this part to get a slide and the part got the slide, so we removed that specific request. The one last thing that I'll say in terms of requests, and I imagine you guys already discussed this, but it's certainly something that needs to be very clear next month when you're determining requests. Not always, but a lot of times, we're unsuccessful with some of our requests because we're not as clear as the agencies need us to be in the requests. So there'll be often a passionate conversation at committee and someone says, oh, we need a whole bunch of money for that. And they're like, yeah. And then you write it down and you send it in and it isn't specific enough. So then the agency says, I don't know what you're talking about. So they don't fund it. So to the extent possible, when requests can be very specific, like we need a pool, we need the pool at this park to be repaired, something like that. Not that it's always going to be successful, but it'll certainly be more successful. At least be successfully considered versus just ignored or just pushed back because we gave the agency an easy out.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Based off of that? Of course. Do we know how many or what is our budget for East Harlem? As far as like, when I say how many would get approved depending on what we request? I'm like, so if we have
100
10
requests.
if we have 10 requests, yeah, like
Right.
what would get funded? Like, what's the percentage, or is there an amount of money that will get funded based off of? You get what I'm saying?
I
Off of our
think I
requests.
do. I think I do. So I'll start answering, and if I'm off base, then
Sure.
tell me. Right. So there isn't a set amount of money for East Harlem,
Okay,
if that was the question. That's what I misunderstood.
part of this.
But we certainly can deduce what percentage of our requests were funded. And we would, I don't have off the top of my head, but we could look at, if we submitted 40 requests and we got 10 yeses and 10 maybes and 10 nos, and we can pull from there what percentage of our requests were funded.
But just to add, just because last year we got 40 requests and only 10 of them were submitted or were approved, doesn't mean that next year it's gonna be the same thing. It all really depends on what the request is, if the agency who's providing the funding for it is something that they can actually do, or they have money for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's based off of what they have for that particular year. I got it.
Yeah, a lot of times the successes of requests are when, not always, but a lot of times, when our priorities overlap with the agency's priorities. It's not always the case, but a lot of times it's the case, particularly when it comes to successful requests. So like if we're asking for something totally in this direction, and the administration's priorities are totally in the opposite direction, they're less likely to be wanting to fund that as opposed to correspond with what their priorities are.
And just really quick,
Yes.
just so, I just wanna make sure I think everyone who's here has gone to their committee meeting where you're the vice chair of it, and you should have already gone through your budget request, looked at it, and started the conversation with your committees.
Lang used to not do that because the meeting went over long.
Okay,
And you know, so, Jason, right after the discussion, completed, when the same. And license and permit.
does not have it.
Does not have that. so
Correct.
we do it.
Yeah, I wasn't at the meeting this month. David filled me in a little bit what was spoken about. But
Do you know if they went through the budget request?
I think he said that they did. I would have to double check the minutes.
Got it.
I'm not sure if he submitted it yet.
Yeah, so that's part of like and Michelle, I was with you at public safety and she's freaking amazing. So if you guys need to learn how to do this, watch Michelle. But basically, as vice chairs, you go to your committee, you look at the budget request, you talk about it with your committee members, see if there's a change in ask or see if we still want that ask to be there. And that's basically what you guys are doing and that's your responsibility to do that with each of your committee. And if you can't do that, you want to make sure that your chair is pushing forward to do that. Right, Angel?
Mhm.
And I'll give it back to Angel.
Dawn has a question for you, Dawn.
Oh, I was trying to ask because we didn't get to have a meeting at housing. So I was gonna ask about what our next step should be for housing and then for public safety and trans.
Lost him. I don't hear her.
Dawn, we can't hear you.
It says loading on the top.
Oh, that's it.
Good eyes.
Can you say that last bit again? We had a little technical.
Sure. For public safety and transportation, it seems like we added money for a pier, and I just wondered, do we just put that for next year since we're already set for this year?
So all the requests are gonna be for the next fiscal year, if that's what the question was.
Okay.
Yeah, so all of this discussion is to help inform the budget for fiscal year 25. So starting next July.
Okay, because I thought the repair of the pier, so that we could look at ferry service was a good seed to plant.
Hmm.
That was
And
all.
then- And in regards to the next steps with housing, you guys need to make forums so you can have this conversation.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have the entire conversation next month.
Michelle?
I wanted to add that there is a space that we had spoken about, Dawn, inside of it's like a chart, and you can pull up public transportation. You could pull it up, and you can make your notes on what you want for the pier in that area, and then put a little thing and then put your name beside it so that we know who's making the comment. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I didn't want to write on your official documents, but I'll email you just to see how I can be helpful.
Well, that's the space that we want everyone to add to, and then we'll condense it.
Okay, so I'll just add on there. I'll add on there.
But in let's put your remarks in succinct way. In each of the spots that you want to put it in.
Okay, I just thought the pier was a
Put your
good
name
idea.
beside it, please.
I surely will. Thank you.
And that actually goes for everyone here. If you see any budget requests within your committee that needs to be changed, or if anyone from your committee wants to make any changes, please make sure that they make the changes and they put their name, so we know where those changes come from. Yes, Michelle.
Not to change the original part, at least for public transportation, but just to add to it and then put your name. So don't change the whole thing, just keep adding like a little list to what you want to say. But if everything is changed over and over again, it's just gonna be a mishmash.
Well, that was what I was worried about, but I'm gonna do
So-
some research.
So if I'm not mistaken, this is through Google Documents, and in
Yeah.
Google Documents, we see the changes, do we not?
Yes, so
I
if I'm sorry, Asher. The comments should be added in the committee revision, the committee comments, I forgot what I called it. But in that box, in there, just enter whatever you're gonna add, like, a sentence, I suggest the following, and then just in parentheses, put your initials. Not, in the very first column all the way to the left, which is the request, in the comments.
Ashley, you want to say something?
No, I was gonna say that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, I was like.
What is it called? Is it called revision section? Do you know what it's called?
yeah, I don't wanna
Um,
take my screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna look for it. I'm gonna find it so I can give it.
But I
to you.
know also you could just highlight and then just put like you can add a comment like through Google, like if you right click
Mhm.
and press. If you don't want to, if like you say, like the one column's getting too full, maybe just highlight and put the comment.
Awesome. Thank you.
So it's called committee notes / revisions. Is the heading on the column.
So that's where we're gonna that's where you're gonna put your changes on.
Thank you.
Good?
Yeah,
Okay.
go.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
David said that they didn't discuss it.
They didn't discuss
They
it?
did.
They did.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Okay, so, the next couple are just are showing what we received in the survey, right? Not the only source, but it's a pretty useful source. So the top 10 most pressing needs overall, listed in order, affordable housing, followed by crime and public safety, followed closely by crime and public safety, and then a little less homelessness, trash removal and cleanliness, quality of life issues, noise, graffiti, petty crime, etc. Then economic development and recovery, cultural facilities and programs, parks and open space, healthcare services, and land use trends, rounding out the top 10. The top 10 will help inform the form that we're gonna submit. So from here, we're gonna pull the top 3 items. Like if you remember in the form, it asks at the very beginning, what are the top 3 most pressing concerns in the district? And then it goes by policy area. So we'll start from here, y'all discuss, and from here, we'll determine the top 3.
And you're talking about our statement needs.
Yes.
On our statement needs, we put what are the top 3 issues within East Harlem, and this is where we get those top 3s from.
So we just choose right now based off of what's here. Not,
Well, we already have it. It's, so the survey pretty much told us what's the top priority issue
for
for,
that. com-
for community
yeah.
board 11, yes.
Right, so this is showing you per the survey. You all should still discuss.
Yes,
It doesn't have to be right now, this moment, but by the end of the next month, should be,
We should discuss,
yeah.
Like
If-
within our
what-
committee.
yeah, what order, no, not within our committee, this committee. correct?
This committee determines the top 3.
Okay,
but it comes from the conversations that you're having within your own committees. Right, and this survey, so we use a little bit of that, the conversations that you guys are having within your own committees, the conversations, the surveys that we have, and conversations that we've had in full board. And that's how we kind of come up with the idea of what are the 3 issues that we want to make sure are part of the district statement.
We're basically just coming back and advocating for what the committee's saying.
Yep.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure each committee is biasly gonna say, my committee.
But
Which
there's
I
also,
found
it's also.
That's what you're here for.
I think it's also about looking at this and then maybe finding some things that overlap within committees.
Correct. And you'll
Because
notice
the
that,
whole-
you'll notice once
yeah.
you have the conversations within your committee, you'll notice that there's gonna be overlapping issues. That are in other committees that like totally go into like one of the top 3 that are here,
Yeah.
right? Like, you hear about the situation with people using drugs on Park Avenue, right? Like that's a big issue here in East Harlem, right? So that would be a crime or public safety or a homeless issue. So that's a issue that's talked about in every committee.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of schools like youth and education, for example, come up to us and be like, hey, the space that they share with like parks is. There's drugs, there's needles in
Yeah.
there, so.
So you'll
It
see that
does
Malik,
overlap,
yeah,
yeah.
so you'll see Malik where there's overlap, even if you think like, oh, my committee's only gonna think our issues are the most concerning, you'll see that there's an overlap and it fits into this. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're gonna enter into the policy areas. You'll see 3 slides for each policy area. Starting off with, and these are not in priority order, these are just the titles per the form. So healthcare and human services, the top 5 most important issues, as resulted from the survey. 1, mental health and substance abuse treatment and prevention programs. Followed by access to healthy foods and lifestyle programs. Then services to reduce or prevent homelessness slash. Oh, I'm sorry, not slash, it's tie. Services to reduce and prevent homelessness, tied with services for low income and vulnerable New Yorkers. Both of those activities. The next slide also has tie, environmental health issues and animal and pest control services. Basically rats. And then followed up by health code enforcement.
I have another question.
Sorry.
So on both of them, do we have a total number of people who did the survey?
199.
Oh,
Altogether.
what you said before.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
So then this shows, and I'll share this with you, shows what, pie chart of all the different categories, in relation to each other, the same type of reference in the previous slide. And then, identifying the agencies and the committees, whose work overlap with the different policy area. So for the Human Services Committee, requests for the Department of Health, Health and Hospitals, Department for the Aging, Human Resources Administration, and the Department for Homeless Services. And then for housing, the Department of Homeless Services.
So this is just so we know which agencies we're working with. Okay.
Now, the next policy area is youth education and child welfare, top 5 most important issues. Starting off with after-school programs, then adolescent substance abuse, youth workforce development, and summer youth employment, educational attainment, and then a tie between community and or home-based support services for families, tied with juvenile justice and services for at-risk youth. Here's your pie chart, in relation,
So the pie chart is just showing everything, not just the top. Okay.
right? So like if something got like 1 vote, it might not show because it might be too slim, but just more than the top 10. And then for this is pretty much everything youth and education. So Department of Education, the School Construction Authority, the Administration for Children's Services, the Department for Youth and Community Development.
Question,
Yes,
I know I have a lot.
That's good.
fine, that's what you're here for.
Good.
So what about charter schools? I didn't, or do we,
Charter schools are under the DOE.
they're under the same thing? Okay, got you.
But technically with charter schools, some of them, I know some of them are housed in most of them are housed in DOE buildings, but you don't from what I remember, we don't necessarily go to DOE.
If they're receiving any type of city funding, they would receive it from the Department of Education.
Okay, all right.
So it doesn't matter where they're at, but it's regarding their funding, where they're getting their funding from. Right?
Yep, you have your hand.
Sure. What?
Dawn, you have a question?
Yeah, I don't want to prolong the discussion because I'm not there to enjoy it in person. But one of the things I'm hoping the rest of the board will think about, because it's going to be much bigger than housing, and we started talking about it even though we didn't have quorum, is that the migrant housing crisis really throws off a lot of, like, we have to find a way to contextualize that, because that has had an impact on the housing crisis. So just putting it out there, if people know of organizations that could come speak intelligently about the migrant crisis, what it really means for our housing stock and our current homelessness issues, that would be great. I don't have any leads, but I just want to plant that seed for the bigger group, because obviously the whole board is going to have to decide what our thoughts are on that crisis.
Really great point, Dawn, but that's something that should be brought up in the housing committee. Do you know when you guys will be having a new meeting? So then maybe we can
Um,
help. Here to have that conversation.
Yeah, I have it on the calendar, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't know of any authorities that can really talk to us. And I know so many of you guys are in social services and I'm just trying to find the right person to come talk us through it. But you're right.
Let's take that offline, because that doesn't really
Okay,
pertain to
sure.
the district needs a statement, but it's definitely important and we should definitely have that conversation.
Well, it's going to change all of our goals and priorities, I guess. It's going to make a big splash in what we're looking
Which
at.
is which is a conversation that needs to be had in housing, so we'll definitely see how we can make that happen.
All righty.
Thank you.
All right, next policy area is public safety and emergency services. Top go-getters, crime prevention programs, followed by general crime. Police, community relations. Then a tie between emergency and disaster preparedness, tied with youth crime. And public nuisance, noise, other disturbances. And we're coming up with fire safety. Pie chart, vast majority, as you can see, is crime prevention programs, general crime. Again, another one committee policy area. So public safety transportation, so the police department and fire department. There's a couple of other agencies towards the end.
Yeah,
But for this part of the policy segment of the form, it's just these two. But we'll get to that committee again later on. So next area is core infrastructure, city services and resiliency. Cleanliness and trash collection. Air quality and pollution. Preparedness for extreme weather events, including coastal flooding, heat waves, cold snaps, heavy wind and rain. Environmental concerns affecting citizens and noise pollution. Vast majority is cleanliness and trash collection. Air quality,
Is rats under cleanliness and they're like the same type of category? Trash.
I think that was health, the health department,
That was helpful.
yeah.
Can I add something there? The part where it's for emergency. That's another, I think that would be another place that would be an overlap. We're asking about overlaps previously. But
We're just discussing it.
Malik.
Malik, oh.
That's why he's looking at you.
Yeah, he's like, what are you talking
I apologize. I saw you all stuff. We're talking about overlaps, and like, it's not only about our community, but that would be an overlap where, weather extremes. That there would also be emergencies with, public safety and transportation.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. The survey. Just really quick, I'm sorry, I don't wanna go backwards, but like really quick, you know, you said, Asher brought up the rodents. And you said it was in health, so I see in health, like number 4 is like environmental health issues and animal and pest control. I'm just wondering for later on, when we're doing the survey, should we like maybe modify our questions where it does say like rodent, rats? Cause I feel like maybe if it just says pest control, I don't think people like really see it as like, oh, a rat issue.
So you mean the question in the survey?
Yeah.
I think what we could do, what we did is we copied the questions per the survey created by the Department of City Planning. But then when we copy it over, we could, you know, in parentheses, be more explicit.
Yeah, that's just related.
I would say, that's a good suggestion. I would say keep the same titles as DCP, so we have consistency. Plus, also they'll do the survey work for us next year. I didn't know that this year. Save me and stuff. But we can add that more explicit language.
Gotcha, okay.
I'm sorry, you said they are going to do.
DCP is gonna do the survey stuff for it. They'll collect and do all the votes.
Will they do the
Spit it
outreach
out,
too? Or we have to still do the
No,
outreach?
we do all the outreach stuff, but.
They just do the actual
Yeah,
technical data
yeah, so
work,
they'll receive all the,
response.
all the responses to the online survey.
Mhm.
And then what they do is they create a report per community district.
And then that's the report, that's
Yeah.
the served.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But we would still have, the raw data,
Yep,
access to the raw data. Okay.
Alright, housing, economic development and land use. Of course, affordable housing creation. Then conditions of public housing. That is affordable housing preservation. Housing support services. Followed up by small business services support, including bids. Some good news on bids last night, I think.
What's bids again?
Business improvement districts.
Okay.
We don't have one of these, Harlem, but we're in the process. We heard about that last night.
Mhm.
We're getting closer. It's exciting.
That's some good news.
So here we do share with committees. So the land use, landmarks and planning committee, has Department of City Planning, Department of Buildings, and Department of Housing Preservation and Development Capital. And then the housing committee has Department of Housing Preservation and Development Expense. The New York City Housing Authority, and then the Economic Development and Culture, of course, has Economic Development Corporation and Small Business Services. Couple more, I promise. Transportation and mobility, subway services and quality, frequency, access, routing, etc. Accessibility, ADA related compliance and infrastructure. American with Disabilities Act, ADA. Bus service, frequency, access, crowding, etc. For pedestrian safety, safer crossings, sidewalk management, etc. Bicycle network, bike lanes, signage, bike safety, etc.
Not the
Pretty-
M35.
Yeah. And one, two.
Well, the M116 is gonna be free soon.
Oh, yeah, shit, I moved on that. I missed it.
So then for this committee, it's all public safety and transportation, so the Department of Transportation, New York City Transit Authority. Taxi and Limousine Commission. Parks, cultural and other community facilities, access to and quality of cultural programming, park safety, park care and maintenance, street, tree and forestry services, including street tree maintenance, insufficient parks or open space. This mostly access to and quality of cultural programming. For this policy area, shared environment, open space and parks, the Parks Department. ECHO has Department of Cultural Affairs and Public Libraries, well, NYPL specifically. And land use has the Landmarks Preservation Commission. Just a little bit of a plug, the Environment, Open Space and Parks Committee is really doing itself. What is budget request? We just had a budget consultation with the Parks Department this afternoon. Because that's another place.
That's-
Someone mentioned Michelle before, so another one to copy is also parks.
That's Malik's, right?
Yeah, Malik and
And Jessica.
Jessica organize a series of park tours throughout the summer.
Well, actually, Malik is the one who figured out which part. And they all went around.
No,
Nice,
A
nice.
lot of good info.
Thank you, Malik.
Which
Um,
one did you go to?
Every,
Everywhere, literally, it was everywhere.
Nice.
that's like 20, more than 20.
Marcus Garvey.
Went to every park, every,
Marcus
Yeah,
Garvey, we
we did only like 4 or 5 per day,
yeah,
so that we could take our time with them. But we did it every other week, so that we.
The reason I'm asking that is because Marcus Garvey is becoming a little dangerous with a lot of people coming from 125th Street with drugs and
Yeah.
needles and everything.
We have a great liaison over there, so
Yeah.
Connie does like inform us on.
Connie hasn't been doing much there lately.
But she has
Connie
still,
Lee, right?
yeah, but she still has been informative and she still.
Yeah.
real- I don't know if she's with,
I
um,
don't think she's.
With the Mount
With them,
Marcus,
Alliance,
yeah.
Park Alliance,
Right,
but
right.
she's still like,
Yeah.
that's still her home.
So you guys did the parks this summer.
Yeah,
Did we put that in a newsletter? Let people, did we?
think they were circulating,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
trying to get participation.
I
actually
would-
really cool.
yeah.
We have a whole section where all the photos were sent.
That's really cool. We should let the community know all the parks you guys went to and
Yeah.
maybe show pictures. That's
I
really
would
cool.
say Marcus Garvey was the one, we were very thorough with it, we walked pretty much through the whole entire park. They let us into the pool, like one of the
Yeah,
staff to let us walk around, yeah,
Beautiful park, but we're
We
getting a
spoke to
lot of
people,
dangerous
yeah.
people in that park.
Mhm.
yeah, that was one of the main things.
That-
They have to better.
Yeah. I mean, that's how, I mean, like you said, that has a lot to do with, our environment, you know. It comes down, it's a trickle down effect as far as housing for our homelessness. And then it comes to public safety and it's in the park, so they all kind of, you know, cross reference and go through each other, so. It's a thing that we have to talk about, I mean, because all committees and even.
If you wanna talk about it afterwards,
Yeah.
cause I was actually.
No, I just
yeah.
wanted to,
Great conversation. Let's get back to district meeting.
And the other remaining agencies in the other category are this committee, with oversight over the Office of Management and Budget, the Department of Citywide Services, the Office of Technology and Innovation, Economic Development, Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, as well as the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. And lastly, Public Safety has the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, MOCJ, and the New York City Emergency Management. So the steps, I'll just read through, committee review of public input. The committees discuss budget requests during their October meeting.
Really quick, Angel.
Yeah.
So I basically, number two, each of us who are vice chairs of our committees, we're basically going to our meetings in October and making sure that the budget request is a conversation that we have in each of our committees. This, except you, yeah. But you can make sure in your other committees that it happens. Yes.
During our committee meetings, would it be suggested to pull up like the specific? Like this data,
budget
but
request?
specific for, no, I'm saying like.
Oh, like the data for the
slideshow,
survey?
Yeah, would it be helpful to like pull up, like, there was like a youth
Yeah.
section, so that would be helpful for me to pull up. So
each
that's
lia-
what you're suggesting. like,
Yeah, so
discuss
each-
it and then
so
discuss the
Each
request.
liaison should, I've already done this in the meeting, they should have pulled up in each committee meeting, the survey and what has come up for each of the committees. And this time around, you should bring it up again and also look at your budget request and have that conversation.
I have a question
Yeah.
for it's not, I guess, pertaining to my committee, because we do our meetings early, but as far as the ones who does it after our meeting, what are they supposed to do for this month? Are they supposed to do that for this month, or so in October, we have to discuss the budget, and we need to come up with whatever we need to come up with. Because they are late in October and we are kind of in the middle, don't we need their input for their October meeting? I'm just trying to figure out.
Yeah.
You mean for every other committee?
Every other committee should have met before this committee reconvenes
Yes,
In October.
in
Yes.
October.
we're one of the last committee.
Yeah, the only committee that meets after you this month is executive, and next
full
month, the same thing.
Okay, so
Yeah, exactly.
human,
Services
Services.
before ESOP.
Everything.
everything is before
Yeah,
us.
before us, yeah.
Okay,
It's created on purpose that.
yeah, no, cause I thought I heard Dawn say,
Well, her
They
committee,
didn't have
her
quorum.
committee hadn't met
They
this
didn't
month,
meet.
but they
didn't make
meet
quorum.
in October before everybody else. They're
Yeah.
the first ones.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
They didn't make quorum, that's why.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
All right, no problem. Well, this is good. What was that, two? Oh, yes.
Three.
Executive committee will review and approve the most pressing needs and most important issue for each policy area. So this committee in October will kind of decide the draft top three and the draft statement and hand that over to executive to ratify, right? Then, not ratify, finalize before it gets before full board for ratification. The staff, we're in the process of this, is drafting the statement of district needs, which basically consists of looking over last year's version, revising, updating data, and making recommendations. The statement, that's what I refer to as the narrative. We'll have a public hearing, as Stephanie stated earlier, at this coming Tuesday's full board meeting to get, public input, right? And we all know what we think. We want to hear from anyone in, the community that didn't get to participate in the survey or has something else to say that they want to share with us, to consider. And then, lastly, in October, the board will vote to adopt the statement of needs and budget requests at its meeting on October 24th. Just a little reminder of what the process is. I'm pretty sure you guys saw this with Carly as you graded all this. Always gotta give Carly props, even if that's preparing budget requests, so the October meetings, review budget requests, make a recommendation for the removals. All guidance comes from the committee. Oh, yes, that's why we make this explicit. So if a member of a committee is super adamant that this thing has to be on, that's all fine. But at the end, the product that gets referred out from committee has to be of the committee, has to be agreed to by the committee, not just because Angel was pretty adamant at the public safety committee that blah, 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 blah. Does that blah, blah, blah get included in the list? No. Angel has to convince his fellow committee members that this is something we want to push forward together. That helps avoid a lot of confusion. Staff liaisons and budget liaisons serve as a point of reference, so you can call us and let us, if we could be of any assistance. The budget request worksheet is that document that you referred to earlier, where you can add your comments and suggestions. You can also track, where the other committees are. That'll have staff recommendations. I can go to it after this, but there are columns just to the left of the committee columns for the staff to make recommendations. So Khalid and Marlene and I are going through all the requests and we'll recommend, remove or revise, and we'll suggest some language. That's for you all to consider. These are not determinative, right? But this is our bit of input, and then you do as you will in the next following part. So that's the budget request worksheet. We used to call it the tracker, because that was a misnomer. So essentially the public input plus the district budget consultations, plus the borough budget consultations, plus the committee discussions, right? All of that, utilizing the budget request reference guide, that could take 25, and DCP tips to strengthen submission. These are two documents that the Department of City Planning has put together to aid community board members in crafting their requests and understanding the process. All of that put together is what results in the budget request. So I referred to in the first column, district budget consultations and borough budget consultations. So during the summer, community boards have the opportunity to invite agencies to have these meetings, both district budget consultations. That's what I referred to earlier. Jessica, Xavier, Khalid, and I were on with the Parks Department. And eventually, you talk about, the budget as it pertains to that agency and our board. Similar meeting happens at the borough level with district managers. District managers meet with all the different agencies. I was on an all-day Zoom, so a 9 to 5 Zoom with a set of agencies today. It's the second day. I have another torturous session next week. As part of that process, we for the borough budget consultations, we submit a list of questions to each agency and we ask that they provide us written responses. The idea being that we can then share those written responses with you all. So when I go into the server in a second, I'll show you what all this stuff is. And it is all the stuff. It's a lot of stuff, but it's there and you use it as you can. For the borough budget consultation, some of the agencies are very thorough in their responses and they give you a lot of really good, useful information. So that, in addition to the mayor's management report, is another good resource. Now, this ends up being like 1,000 pages. I don't say that to discourage you, but just to acknowledge that I understand it's a lot. But if you're committed to doing it, you can find it, right? And you can get your answers, you can get your questions answered there.
Michelle has a question.
Oh, yes.
It was also just to add the Google Doc. Link to everything that is being sent out. Via this office to any of our members, and just to have it as an addition. So that it's a reminder that people have to add in what they want to say.
That was gonna be suggested after this meeting. I was gonna suggest that Angel sends that out to everyone.
Send out what again? I'm sorry.
Sends out the link with the budget requests, so everyone has that.
But this is more like each time that any correspondence and things that are, just have that little thing. They don't
Oh, that's
forget
the
to-
Angel question. I don't,
That every single correspondence that we send out,
she wants the Google link to be on there.
Just for this, just saying that. You give your.
so the membership.
The membership. The membership. And
Okay,
is there a way to highlight the part where they're supposed to? Put in their comments?
Okay, so-
All
all right, so, okay, so
No,
let's
they-
start.
Start in the beginning of what I wanted to say.
Maybe you
So
should open it
I'm-
up to
I'm
you,
listening,
Michelle.
I'm listening, I'm trying to answer as we go on. So, I wanted to remind you all here, I did this last night, we often refer to. The team drive that we created for board members, but just as a reminder, in case you haven't been there recently, or in case you could use the reminder. Xavier sometimes refers to this as the sandbox. So you gotta heard that term. So what we did is a couple of years ago, we created a drive in Google, for our board members, right? So. For if you go into Google and you go to share, you'll find us. And in here, it's organized by committees. And the idea is that in each one of those folders, the committees can work collaboratively with each other. As it pertains to the work of this committee and the resources, and the work of the committee, in here by fiscal year, you'll find information, all the information that we received from district consultations. We didn't do that many this year, but whatever we did get, it's in there. The borough consultations organized by agency, so you'll see, excuse me, we just did NYCHA today, so we have a bunch of stuff in NYCHA. Here, and then like process information, how to get, blah, blah, blah. Please don't mess with the survey. I don't know why I put that in there. So bring your eye to the worksheet. Put the answer. So it's organized by, so where we left off last Halloween, right? We submitted our request, that's the tracking code, what the request is, what the reason was, the corresponding agency. And then the response that we got at the end of the exercise, which is in June from the adopted budget, this is what the agency answered, right? Then we move on to, in terms of your question about highlighted. So these blue columns are the staff recommendations and our notes, and then yellow highlighted for you all, which are committee recommendations and your notes.
So we just put there, hey, if we
Yep.
want to keep it,
Right.
or if we,
Yeah,
And-
for the recommendation, there's a drop down.
we're not adding new requests yet, right? Or, no, I see it now. Yeah, we are.
Right,
adding new requests.
So then, here are your notes, or like someone has a note here, or something. And then, if you're revising, right, so this is being revised. And it's, let's say, -1 sentence, and that's what the notes, the committee's final language that they agreed to should be here.
Okay.
Because that's what I'm gonna copy and paste on the list that you'll vote on. And then, you'll also in October determine what the priority level that the committee recommends. So high priority, medium priority, low priority,
And when does this need to be in?
October,
No, I mean,
your October meeting.
31st?
October 24th.
So like for each specific committee, their October meeting.
We're discussing it.
And
And making
determining,
it- and determining.
you're wrapping the whole thing up,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Because then I'm gonna pull from all the other committees and feed you guys a list, and then you're gonna convene, and you're gonna spit something out for executive, and they're gonna convene, and they're gonna spit something out for full board.
the full board's gonna convene.
So
And-
just.
and
long
vote on it, and
meetings
that could
for the
be it.
next month.
Yeah, and then I get to send it off and, you know. And then the last column is, you know, the ranking approved, as approved by the full board. And that's the worksheet. I think that's everything I have from that. Yeah, that's all I got.
So before we move on, do you guys have any other questions when it comes to the? budget request?
I just had a question, because you mentioned that. That you get to speak. I forgot which department, there
The
was two of
district.
them,
District
not
consultation,
district, the other one.
the borough
Borough.
consultation,
For a bunch of times.
Right, so during the borough, like a sanitation department, you can get. Specific answers from them or as a whole, because. Even for us in parks, like we have a hard time, you know, like
Yes.
with sanitation, trying to even get them to come to our meetings. So how could? Yeah,
No, you just finish your question.
I just wanna know, like, could we submit questions there? Do you think that would help out, or no, not really, or?
So yes, but that happened already.
Okay,
So there's the two consultations for the district ones. Jessica's been trying to schedule these things with the agencies for like the last month
yeah,
with different levels of success.
Yeah.
So Parks Act finally happened. Sanitation has not happened yet.
Yeah.
On the borough level, there is going to be a consultation with the Department of Sanitation. My only limitation there is that we're supposed to be making borough focused questions, not like CB11 focused questions. So like if
okay,
there's time at the end of the meeting, like we've allocated an hour. And we finished all our questions in 50 minutes, and in the last 10 minutes, they'll allow you to ask the questions, but before that, everybody gets back. So I don't really get to.
no, I got you,
Yeah,
all right.
that's my report.
so we're doing it. No more questions about the survey or anything of that nature? So you guys know what we need to do?
Yes.
You guys are ready to do this?
Yes, coach.
Oh, I like that. Don't get me gas. All right, so moving on. Do we have any old business? Nope. Do we have any new business? Well, yes, we have new tasks to work out and you guys are ready to do this. And Dawn, you got this for housing. I believe in you if you're still here with us. And I guess we're done.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dawn. We're done. Let's do roll call, right? Unless you want to say something,
No.
you know? Are you good? Okay, let's do it.
Long drive, bro. Committee members, when I call your name, please answer present. Stephanie,
Present.
Judith,
Here.
Malik,
Here,
Nilsa,
Here.
Art, here, Asher,
We're.
and Michelle.
Present.
We have quorum.
Art, you're good with this, right? You're good? You got it? If you need any help, give me a call.
I will.
All right.